I don't know how Rachel Maddow is going to survive, Bill. I thought about creating a GoFundMe for her, but then I figured they'd probably come after me for false advertising. So I didn't want to be like The Onion because I just don't have, obviously, I don't have the clout. The Onion is taking over InfoWars. Maybe we're not totally sure what's going on, what's really going on. But that said, I don't have the clout of The Onion, so I was going to open this with saying I started GoFundMe for Rachel Maddow, but I'm not going to say that anymore because I don't want to get sued. Rachel Maddow takes pay cut with MSNBC's future in jeopardy. She will now make $25 million a year, down from $30 million a year, Bill.
Right before the holiday season. How is she supposed to live?
How could they do this to her?
I know.
Because we know she's Santa's right-hand lady. So no Christmas this year, kids. Not going to get any of our Christmas presents from Rach. It's amazing to me, if I understand correctly, too, that she does one show a week. I'm not saying that's all she does. I know that she says she does other stuff behind the scenes, but she only does one show a week. Is that right? On Monday nights?
Yeah, she only does the Rachel Maddow show, only has Rachel Maddow one night a week. And then she does, I think she started a podcast and she does some other things. I know she does some editorial write-ups for MSNBC as well. But yeah, as far as her actual show, it's one night a week.
Amazing. Well, here's what's being reported here in the Daily Beast, that a source of the network told the Daily Beast the reported salary is not accurate, though did not provide another figure. Okay, so maybe there's wiggle room in here, but I think it's probably safe to say she's taking a pay cut of some kind.
Oh, yeah.
They say that this is a difficult time. This is a quote from an executive, according to the Daily Beast. This is a difficult time, and they needed to keep her. No one else can do what she does. You can't build a brand like it overnight. Let's break that sentence apart real fast, Bill. Is Rachel Maddow MSNBC? Is that a yes?
I'm sorry. What was the question again? You froze up a little bit.
Is Rachel Maddow MSNBC?
Oh, God, no. She's the face of the network, kind of like Tucker Carlson was for Fox News at a time and like Bill O'Reilly was for Fox News at one particular time. She's not MSNBC, but she's definitely the face.
So that's why I kind of was wondering, like, they're kind of alleging that they had to make some cuts. We're going to get into that in a second, but could not like cut her as much as maybe they should to save money because they need to keep her. They write that Comcast, which we're going to get into in a second, the owner of NBC Universal, plans to spin off several NBC channels like MSNBC and CNBC into its own company. NBC Universal chairman Mark Lazarus is currently heading the effort, expected to be completed by the end of 2025, called SpinCo. Can you give us a breakdown on this, Bill? What is going on here?
NBC, Comcast, they saw the writing on the wall. These channels are no longer making them money. They cost more to produce than they bring in revenue. Plus, on top of that, MSNBC, we all know for the longest time has had a very liberal, left-leaning slant to their news reporting, and that's fine. There's no problem with that. But it's no longer a business model that is making them money like they used to. Some of the channels included in the spinoff are the USA Network, which nothing really on that network draws ratings except for Monday Night Raw, which they're losing that to Netflix in January. I think they'll still have WWE SmackDown, though, on Friday nights. So that'll be the only thing that gets them any kind of viewership. And then some of these other networks, I didn't even hear of them. I'm trying to pull that up real quick. I had it and then I dropped it. But yeah, they're just losing money. Oh, the Golf Network, they're losing that. Sports Engine, I didn't even know that was a thing. Oxygen, Fandango, and Rotten Tomatoes. They're getting rid of all that. So it's just not making any money. So now they're going to try to cut bait and sell it and make a nice little profit.
They say here too that, quote, now I just add that all the Daily Beast quotes for the most part are completely anonymous. So I have no idea who's saying this, if they're even real. But we were so Harris propaganda that when she lost, viewers were shocked. One on-air pundit said it turned into a giant circle, JERK, an echo chamber. If MSNBC wants to be of service to its viewers, they can't keep them in fantasy land. I I don't know about this one. I don't know. I don't know if MSNBC viewers really want anything but what they get at MSNBC if they're still watching it. Now, could MSNBC get more people back? Maybe, but I feel like they've gone off the cliff. I don't think there's any coming back from where we are now with cable news. I don't think they resurrect themselves and somehow become either like more or less moderate and attract a different crowd back. I will say this though. I remember in 2016, I was covering Hillary Clinton's watch party in Capitol Hill, Seattle. And I was watching MSNBC, of course, because that's what they had at this party playing, with Rachel Maddow and Chris, what's his name? Chris something or other.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
And they were shocked. They were genuinely shocked, or they were playing the role very well if they weren't. And, near tears. And so was the party at that point. And I remember being like, this is very weird that they're this shocked, because I wasn't that shocked. And I thought, where did they get their information? Because like, if they're genuinely this shocked, they must not be getting all the information. Because if you were getting even just a little bit more than they were, you would at least be like, okay, well, maybe this didn't go the way I wanted it to, but I'm not shocked Trump won. To be shocked again in 2024, I mean, it's kind of like they wanted to stay this way. They believe that there's some reason that they should stay this way. We're going to talk about this phenomenon in just a second and ask, what should Rachel Maddow do? I mean, should she get a second job? I don't know. What I know she should probably stock up on while she still has the money, though, is some good wine, because who knows? They could cut $5 million next year and $5 million the next year. And she might be down to $2 million a year before she knows it. And she's going to have to be drinking $2 Chuck like the rest of us. So
$2 Chuck.
Winepromo.com. Christmas is coming up. All kinds of holidays are coming up. And you don't want to be showing up to those dinner parties without a good bottle of wine. Or this is a great present. You get your wine, you join the club, say you don't drink wine. That's okay. You'll get 6 bottles that can be 6 presents every 3 months. And then you can gift them out to people who are free speech advocates and like a really good bottle of wine that they cannot get anywhere else. Literally, one of the bottles in my wine club you cannot get unless you get through the Bonner Wine Club or the Allison Wine Club through the Bonner Wine Club. And it comes from almost 9,000 feet. It is one of the most extreme altitude wines in the world. Some of the wines come from vineyards that are over 200 years old, family operations. They're still using old world winemaking techniques in very, very remote regions. So that means fewer pesticides, better taste. And also these grapes work very hard to stay alive. So it just tastes better. It's a great product. I can't recommend it enough. Get it as a present. Get it for yourself. Merry Christmas ahead of time. Buy one and send it to Rachel Maddow. She needs it. She's going to be struggling for the next couple of months to figure out how she's going to get by. So let's go back to this. I want to show this video real fast. Okay. This guy has a different opinion. Bill was saying like, okay, this is kind of, another one of these signs that cable news is dying or MSNBC is dying. But let's hear what this guy's got to say.
And Tom Rogers, he's executive chairman of Orbit Gaming, former NBC cable president, and a CNBC contributor. Tom, thanks for joining us. I would imagine as someone who had the foresight to found the network and has watched, and we always have you on to talk about the state of the industry, you probably understand this move, and I would imagine you're in favor of it or think it's a good idea.
I actually do think it's a good idea. Excuse me. I think of a couple of these channels as my babies, and my first thought was the kids are going to be all right. I think this is
kids are going to be all right, Bill.
Going to be all right.
I'm worried about it.
Yeah, a very good move in terms of being able to create an entity where CNBC and MSNBC, for example, can get the kind of resources they need to expand their franchises, really put them in a position to exploit the opportunity of the streaming world. I think within Comcast, it's been pretty clear that these channels have been treated just as cable channels and really haven't had an opportunity to get the resources to spread their wings as broad media franchises that can go way beyond the constraints of today's cable bundle.
Sorry, muted myself. I
That's
want to say
okay.
one quick thing. When I worked for Gannett, which is now Tegna, but Gannett is the newspaper arm of what used to be both a broadcast and print operation. I worked for Gannett, and I think it was the housing crisis recession back in 2009, 2008, 2009, somewhere around there. They split the company, and Tegna became the broadcast journalism company, and Gannett stayed the print journalism company, and they own USA Today and a bunch of other local newspapers. Now, it may or may not have kept the company afloat. I mean, maybe it was a good financial move to split them up and turn them into their own operations, I guess. But what it definitely did do was change very, I think, structurally how news was done. That's when the whole multimedia journalism phenomenon started for us, like where a reporter would now shoot and edit her own video. So you didn't work with a photographer as much anymore. You had to do online scripts. There was a lot more work and less money. Definitely pay cuts, or at least if you were hired on new, you weren't going to make as much money. And I do think this symbolizes if it's something similar to what I went through. I'm not saying it's exactly the same thing, but I do think Bill makes a good point that, okay, even if this guy's positive about like where the consequences will lead, that it does signal that something is not going exactly right. Let's just watch this one last part.
And getting those resources creates opportunity for employees, creates opportunity to be much more creative, I think, in terms of how you could imagine specialized business streaming services that are supported not by the household pocketbook as any channels within the cable bundle are today, but support from corporations and investors who really could rely on more vertically oriented specialized services and a whole new level of revenue streams. So I don't look at this as a way for Comcast to simply dump problem assets because the cable bundle is continuing to face cord cutting. I look
Okay, well, let
at
him
it much
finish.
more as an opportunity. Some really strong media franchises to be able to broaden themselves.
Okay, but that was definitely what they were doing with Tegna and Gannett. They were dumping the newspaper arm of the company because it was dragging down the broadcast arm. So
Exactly.
I'm not saying it's the same thing, but I just know I've been in one of these transitions before, and they split them up because there were liabilities. They wanted to free the potentially successful ones, which I think in our case, they were looking at broadcast television was still making a decent amount of money, and the newspapers were tanking. And so they split them up for that reason. It was not just because it was like, oh, we're going to be more creative this way. It was not that. It was a survival move. It was definitely a survival move. Do you think this is that, Bill?
I think it could be a survival move, but I think it's more than that. I think this election cycle really proved the power of new media. Yeah, you did see Kamala Harris on The View and took a Fox News interview, and that's awesome. But I really think she missed the boat. Her team put her on a podcast where the host made a name for herself by giving oral sex instructions. Okay. The Call Her Daddy podcast, it's got millions upon millions of listeners, but it's nothing compared to Joe Rogan. And she could have the opportunity to go back onto the Breakfast Club. She didn't do that either. And the Breakfast Club, yes, it is a radio show, but it's got much, much more of a digital following than it does as a radio broadcast program. So these cable companies are the cable news companies, and actually a lot of cable channels, they're fighting for their lives because they're getting swallowed. They really are. And it's hard to say that because this is, where you and I cut our teeth. This is where the background that we came from. So, but they're scrambling. They don't know what to do anymore. The Meredith Corporation, which owned Better Homes and Gardens and a couple of other popular magazines. What a lot of people forget is that the Meredith Corporation also owned over 20 TV stations. I've actually got their Wikipedia page pulled up here, and they sold almost all of their TV stations about 6 years ago, maybe a little more. Yeah, they sold all of these TV stations, most of them to Gray. And some of them are independently owned, and others Nexstar picked up, because in the Nashville market, Nexstar was going to pick up, or was going to buy WSMV, but they couldn't, because that was the government considered that a monopoly, and they blocked that sale because they already owned another TV station in Nashville. So they're just trying to sell off what they can, get what money they can, and get out of here. That's all it is at this point. And I just think so many people are going to new media now for their news and information, whether that's a good or a bad thing, because these people aren't really vetted, or their information. Sometimes you get an Alex Jones. So it's difficult to say at this point if it's good or bad.
I know Bill's not a huge fan of Alex Jones, but I'm not even going to go down that rabbit hole right now. I just had Christy Lee on, which everybody should go watch, because it's very interesting to hear her perspective. She guest hosts every once in a while on InfoWars, or she did. She came from television news as an anchor and then switched over to guest hosting on InfoWars, and she had a very interesting perspective on the whole onion deal. So if you're interested in that, you should definitely go watch that show. Before we wrap for supporters only, because this is a supporters only show, get your greenpasture.org, promo code Allison at checkout, greenpasture.org. We've been taking the fermented cod liver oil, concentrated butter oil blend for over a decade. I used to get cavities all the time at the dentist. And then I started taking this. I'd go back and I couldn't believe the state of my teeth. And it's just an amazing product. It's fermented cod liver oil. So it's fermented for better and easier absorption by your body. And then it's mixed with a high vitamin D butter oil, the way that turn of the century dentist Dr. Weston A. Price said we should do this product. It was sort of his, I guess, special tincture. He studied the indigenous cultures around the world that like didn't have dentists but had no cavities. And so anyway, he came up with this and said, this is what people should take. We've been taking it for a long time. My dad is an orthopedic surgeon. He got me turned on to it. So go check it out. Allison at checkout, greenpasture.org. You can also send me mail. P.O. Box 3355, Denellen, Florida, 34432. Send me something that I can grow in my garden, like some seeds. Send the producer some artwork, just nothing creepy and nothing edible. I know some people like to send cookies and stuff at the end of the year, but I don't know you, so I'll probably think you lace it with arsenic and you're trying to kill me. P.O. Box 3355, Denellen, Florida, 34432. Over on Locals, which is a great way to support the show too, alsamar.locals.com. DMSR says, I would work one night a week for just $5 million.
Me too.
I would go, yeah, I mean, I was trying to like, I'm not great at math, but okay. So let's call it 24 million to make it easier. Yeah. That would be 2 million a month, right? 2 million a month, 1 million a paycheck if you're paid every 2 weeks. Can you imagine that kind of money? I mean, YouTube pays me like $112 a month. Okay. YouTube, literally in ad revenue, I make $112 a month or something right now on YouTube. Can you imagine? And I do 3 shows a week, and Rach does 1 show a week. So what's going on here? YouTube, you're slacking, man. You need to help me out. But anyway, we're going to finish up for supporters only. And thanks everybody. Oh, I did want to show one quick thing. G. Franklin put this up. This is Rachel Maddow's high school photo.
Yep.
Amazing.
It's really funny. There's a meme floating around. I wish I had it, but it's the Rachel Maddow evolution from her, pretty blonde high school picture to cutting her hair, then going to brunette. And then the last picture of the evolution is a picture of Mark Cuban.
That's funny. So. All right, everybody, we're going to take a couple of comments and questions over on Locals. If you are not a supporter, consider joining alsamaro.locals.com, $5 a month, and you can put questions in ahead of time for interviews. You get the rest of Tittle Tattle. You can also be a supporter on Rockfin or Patreon. It's a great way to support. Thank you for watching on Rumble or elsewhere. We love you. We'll see you next time.